So in this section, we're going to be talking about messaging. What we mean by messaging is any communication you have with a client, potential client, future client, warm leads, cold leads, your buddy next door when you tell him about your company. Any kind of outward-facing communication is what we consider messaging.
Okay, so remember this quote. Marketing is an exercise in memorization. Donald Miller said this, and he is a renowned author. He has a book called Building a Story Brand. We're going to talk about that in a second. But I want you to remember that quote because it's really, really important. If you are consistent across all channels, the way you talk to somebody, your social networks, whatever it is, if you're consistent, then that consistency is going to drive word of mouth. It's going to let that person that you talk to at a networking event remember that, hey, you're an expert in illustration for the sports industry or whatever it might be. So be really consistent across everything, and that's going to help people remember it. Just like you have a logo or a visual, design that's connected to your brand, people recognize that. They see that logo and they know who it is or whatever. The same thing applies to your messaging. That's that same consistency that builds trust, right? So make sure that just like you have a logo, you have a consistent set of messaging, whether that be taglines, an elevator pitch, or any way that you describe your business.
Right, and those have to work in concert, right? Your visuals and your messaging has to go together. The general rule of thumb you hear is people have to see something 12 times to remember it. But if they're seeing your company 12 times and you're not consistent, then that's pointless, right? Yeah. So not only do they need to know about you and hear about you a lot of times, they have to hear about it and know about it in the same way for it to stick. An easy way to do that is what we call brand pillars. People call them filters.
Silos,
buckets. There's a ton of different terms out there for them. We prefer pillars because it sounds regal.
Like a palace.
Develop 4 or 5 of those. These are going to be adjectives that describe your brand. That could be funny, serious, confident, cocky, quirky,
unexpected,
irreverent.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. So there's a ton out there. We use a tool called Brand Deck. We actually use it with our clients and our brand workshops as well. It is really a great tool to kind of help you narrow that down. Then all of your visuals and all of your messaging, you can check against those pillars. So anytime you're putting out anything new, writing new taglines, writing a social media post, anything, you can check them against those pillars to make sure that you're consistent. Now, those can evolve and change, right? Our messaging has changed as our company has matured. We were more irreverent and funny and quirky in the beginning, and
now we're old and we're not.
We're super boring. That's what our pillars have changed to. Boring, sleepy, tired. But I think there is something to be said for understanding kind of where your workflow is coming from, right? As your clients are changing, does your messaging need to change? It needs to be reflective of you, especially if you're a freelancer. You're going to be living this brand, right? So you don't want to write a brand pillar that you can't pull off. If you say funny and you're not a funny person, well, you're going to be screwed. Well,
it's a good thing to do a refresh every couple of years. Look back and say, hey, is this still relevant? Is this still me?
Yeah, and then go through and look at all your taglines. Look at your elevator pitch. Make sure you rework those as well at that time so that you can remain consistent.
Okay, so we got to talk about this. So this book, Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, completely changed the way that we approach messaging with all of our clients and with our own projects. Read this book. It's fantastic. The 2 main things to get from this book is this is going to help you clarify your message, and it's going to give you this concept, which is you are the guide, your customer is the hero, and your goal is to help that hero become the hero by overcoming some kind of challenge or whatever it may be, right? So this is going to be the thing that helps you talk more about your customer and less about yourself. This is going to be the thing that makes your customers feel more connected because you understand their problems and their challenges. So read this book, and it's going to help you think about the way you write your own content.
I mean, talking about consistency, when you just said clarify your message, I heard it in Donald Miller's voice, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's on the front of the book, clarify your message. But in every podcast, in every radio ad he does, clarify your message is
Right.
what he says.
Yep.
So that's a great example of recall and consistency. So I think you can break down kind of the story brand concept into a few key points. I do think it's something you should read, take the time to do it. But you want to be short and concise. Shorter is always easier to remember. We, as creatives, I think, have this need to kind of pontificate and like try to explain every single thing that we do all the time. Try to build a clarifying statement. I, X, do blank for blank, right? So the Jonas Brothers made music for teenage girls. Like that can sum it up in one thing. So try to have that one line sentence that you have, and that can be your short, concise messaging. The other thing is to talk about your customers' problems. Talk about the hurdles they're facing. This is going to allow you to connect with them instantly, right? They're going to be like, oh, they understand my problems. And we can relate to that as humans. When you meet somebody else going through the same thing you're going through, there's always like an instant bond. So understanding their issues that they're facing is going to go a long way. It's also going to allow you to kind of sprinkle what Donald Miller calls the salt in there, which is kind of the stakes of if they don't hire you. So you're the expert in this situation. If you hire me, you're going to get this, bang, bang, bang. If you don't, it might not go that way. Now, you don't want to overwhelm them. It's not a hard sell. You don't want them to feel like it's you or nothing and you're really pushing for it. But give them a little bit of the stakes. Make sure they understand that you are bringing value and can help solve their problems. The last thing we always kind of use is be the Gandalf, not the Frodo, right? You want to be the person helping your clients get to Mordor? Yeah, wherever you threw the ring in, right? You're the person helping them along that path. And when you really kind of frame it that way, it's easier to think about.
Yeah. So we've provided a document that you can check out, and this is going to give you some tactical suggestions for how you might develop some of your own messaging specifically in the format of a website. So we've got some different content blocks with some different types of messaging and types of or different approaches to how you might talk about your services and the way that you can help your customer.
And as always, if you have any questions, shoot us an email and we'll be happy to get back to you.